depending on where you are in the country. It's a beautiful day here in central Ontario. Hope it's nice where you are across the country. And I want to thank you all for spending some time with us today in one of our regular town hall meetings. My name is George Ross. I'm the CEO of the Digital Research Alliance of Canada, for any of you that I haven't met yet. And welcome. Our previous town hall meetings, we've done several of these over the last months, have to a large degree been focused on our work on sovereign AI compute in response to priorities of the federal government. Today, we want to provide you with an update on that initiative, but also we want to update you on some short-term investments we're making in support of the sovereign AI compute priorities that have been mandated to the Alliance. And most importantly here, we want to also introduce you to some work that the Alliance is leading on setting up a Canadian research data platform. So all three of these components are very integrated into our broader vision around modernizing our DRI services to the country. And they're all a reflection of the evolving role of research that supports research needs and priorities that the country is grappling with relative to AI. So with that introduction, I'm going to pass it over to Stephen Wu, our Director of Partnerships, who's been leading our sovereign AI compute work, to provide an update. Stephen, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much there, George. So before we begin, Malu, can you advance the slide for me, please? Thank you. Okay, perfect. So I just want to kind of, can you go back one slide? Sorry. Usually I get to control the slide because we have a few people here. We have a slide clicker, so thank you so much, Malu. So I just want to kind of level set here because I think it's very important for us to kind of take a look at where we are and what the opportunities are, because I think we have a number of things that are happening all at the same time, and I think it's very important for us to level set where the opportunities lie, because essentially what the Alliance is really trying to do right now is set a foundation for the future. And this is really how we see a lot of the funding that we've been entrusted with is really foundation setting. So there's going to be two parts of this presentation, as George mentioned. I'm going to start first, but in practical realities, we would have started with a short-term investment. But I wanted to kind of let you guys know what the vision that we're trying to go after is. And that's really the AI Sovereign Infrastructure Program, SCIP, the $705 million. This is where we believe the country needs to be, and it's because it is a generational investment that can really transform how digital research infrastructure is funded and deployed within this company. But one of the things that we are doing to get to the 705 is the work that we have been entrusted with through what we call Project 85, or a $83.5 million short-term rapid deployment of AI compute resources to support the country's AI growth. So that is something that will lay the foundation for the future, and we're going to talk about that. So without further ado, I just want to give a quick update on where we are with Project 700, or our response for AI SCIP, and then we're going to go into a lot of the meat and potatoes and the nuts and bolts that I'm going to ask Felipe to kind of lead us into. Next slide, please. Thank you. Perfect. So just a reminder for everyone, we are getting into the final phases of preparations, because we fully believe that the Government of Canada will be doing a call for proposal in the next month or two for the $705 million investment. And what our vision is, just a reminder for those who are joining us new, is that we ultimately want to kind of create a new way of deploying investments in this country in a scaled up and consolidated way to support AI compute. So out of our vision for this is really 5 key pillars to what we're trying to do. The first is advancing a scaled up and consolidated AI factory for this country. The second is creating a national data platform and also expanding that out, with the foundations being laid through the initial $85 million that Felipe will talk about in a little bit. There will be an AI infrastructure testbed, and it's not just about advanced compute technologies, but it's also all the technologies that go into a data center. And we want to create a platform for innovation for people who are trying to commercialize to be able to leverage this infrastructure. And we're also going to be developing the workforce, both on the folks who actually provide user support to support your research, but also about providing support to your graduate students and even folks earlier on in their careers. And finally, one of the things that we have heard loud and clear from the Government of Canada, and this is a requirement that they have, is that we need to be able to generate significant economic impact out of this investment. And that's because there's a $705 million investment. It's a generational investment, and the government does want to see this scaled up and actually create spin-off opportunities for the Canadian economy. Thank you. Next slide. So before we kind of get any further, one thing that I thought would be very important for us to kind of talk about and kind of remind everyone is kind of what the core principles and what our philosophy of kind of preparing the proposal is for. This is a slide that we presented in February, March, when we kind of started this journey of responding to the federal government statement of intent for the AI SCIP program. And what we really talked about there was the fact that we need to absolutely address this country's lagging investment in digital research infrastructure. We need to meet your needs, but also the needs of government and industry research. And we also continue to need to advocate government for wraparound services and talent. And these are critical services that support you ultimately. And it can't just be about, just all about artificial intelligence or GPUs. We've heard loud and clear that it needs to be comprehensive. And the other thing is the fact that when we kind of take a look at the compute resources that are required, the country needs a lot more in order to do more. And we've heard loud and clear that the only way that this can work is if we kind of take a look at this from a consolidated, scaled up approach to minimize fragmentation that really isn't supportive and conducive for your future needs and the needs of the country. Equity is another thing that we fundamentally believe in here at the Alliance. And it's not just about equity in terms of access to the resources that are provisioned through the Alliance. It's also about opportunities that we can actually create so that your institutions and the research community can benefit from. And we're going to talk a little bit about the distributed storage grid and whatnot, because these are opportunities that can only be facilitated if we do it in an equitable way and transparent way. And that's exactly part of what we're trying to do here, is to kind of secure as much funding so that we can actually distribute resources across the country for your benefit. Global best practice we'll talk about in a little bit, but also collaboration. Collaboration is key, and that's kind of why we've committed to doing these town halls, and also why we've actually done a lot of engagement to listen to you, because we want you to be part of this journey as much as us kind of leading forward this vision for the country. Next slide, please. So with that, we've actually undertaken quite a bit of a national engagement endeavor, and it really is about building national consensus through collaboration. And, if you've kind of had the opportunity for us to kind of come to your city over the past 2 months, we started in Halifax during the Air Canada strike in August. We kind of continued our roadshow through the month of September, and we're not finished. I think we're still planning some stuff right now in the Greater Toronto area. But really, it's our opportunity to kind of talk to researchers, listen to what your needs are, and actually reflect that back into the design of the AI compute systems that we're working on as well. So we've done this both in person, but we've also had a number of virtual opportunities for you to participate in, including a user needs assessment, which we'll remind you at the very end, because there's still opportunity for you to actually provide your use cases in terms of how you will want to use this AI compute. We've also worked with industry because, as we've kind of know, the government of Canada wants this investment deployed in short order. They want it to be deployed by Q1 or Q2 of 2028. So what we've been working with industry on is understanding how we jump onto this bullet train when the technology and where the technology will be in 2 years. So we need to do that in partnership with industry as well. We also kind of did a national site opportunity scan, and we actually received over 30 submissions of sites from across the country. And I think where we are right now is we have a short list of sites where this investment can go. And I want to kind of emphasize something here because I think the reality is we'd love for this to kind of go in one of these things to go in every single province. But the reality is we're trying to kind of build one single system that actually will provide the foundation for future investments to kind of ladder on. So I want to kind of stop here for a little bit and kind of talk a little bit about why we selected certain sites and why we haven't selected certain sites. Fundamentally, what we're trying to do is prepare for the future. We want to kind of ensure that sites will have enough space and power that it can actually meet the future needs of research, because fundamentally what we want to do is ensure that the government of Canada see this as a scalable area where they can actually ladder on more investments in the future. So what we've done is we've taken a look at sites specifically to a certain set of parameters and actually shortlisted them based on timeframes, power availability, and site size. And right now we're doing due diligence on these sites so that we can actually get this investment going as soon as possible without delay. So if you kind of take a look at here, all of these things will be condensed into a technical specifications that kind of provide multiple inputs and allow us to kind of really design a wholesome and comprehensive proposal that meets your needs. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we've kind of took this roadshow across the country, starting in Halifax. We've been to Kingston, we've been to Calgary, Alberta, Vancouver, Montreal, and we are also very fortunate to have Minister Evan Solomon join us for our round town hall as well. And what we talked about there was really fundamentally the need for the country to come together and how we need to also kind of do big things in this country. We've also heard loud and clear from your research community, this research community, that it's not just about GPUs. We need to also invest heavily in CPUs for certain types of disciplines. And we've also heard loud and clear that you also need a lot of services to kind of support these investments as well, to optimize the resources and help navigate through the use of these AI compute. We've talked a lot about a new access model, and we've kind of tested a model where we've talked about provisioning some for academic-led industry collaborations as well, where we would allocate about 20% of the resources specifically for academic industry collaboration. And we've tested it with a lot of these, roundtables that we've had. And I would say that overwhelmingly, there's a lot of support for this vision. And so these are things that we've kind of workshopped with your community and taken back into our design work as well. And as I mentioned, this is just the beginning. Next slide, please. International collaboration is also very, very important. When we kind of take a look at this, no one has ever built an AI factory or an AI compute facility of this scale and size in this country. And what this means is we are leaning on those who have actually walked the path before us. And we don't have to look very far, because all we need to do is look across the pond. And there's already 14 AI factories that are being planned or deployed across the European Union. A few weeks ago, we had David Twiddle, our VP Strategy and Planning, alongside colleagues from Compute Ontario, ASNIT, and Calco Quebec, actually do a mission to Finland, where they actually did a knowledge exchange program with the Finnish CSC. And this is really to understand how they've actually kickstarted their Lumi AI supercomputer, and also figure out how we can collaborate as we build forward the Canadian system. What are the learnings that we can take back and grow here at home? Because not only are we trying to build something that is a foundational investment here, we also want to draw on the expertise and build on what is already there. And we're very thankful for our friends in Finland and other jurisdictions for helping us out on this journey. Next slide, please. Now, we kind of talked a little bit about this, and this is really ultimately our vision when we kind of submit our proposal, because as I mentioned, the proposal is going to be, the call for proposal is coming out imminently. And what we want to be able to do is to secure all $705 million and optimize it based on what you've told us is important for you. So we've already collected a lot of data on the real estate and the infrastructure. We've kind of got an RFI that's going out to kind of understand what the compute technologies are that are available based on the vendor, specifications. But we're also beginning service design and working on scaling up the data platform. And we're very thankful for our friends over at AceNet, Greg Lukeman, for actually leading us on a bit of a service design process as well. So when we kind of take a look at this, the idea here is the fact that we will not be selecting one particular site for this process. What we are doing is we are providing objective analysis when we actually submit our proposal based on our understanding of the ability for these sites to scale, both power and land. We will do an analysis of the capital and operating cost, the available talent, and the amount of government support for each one of these sites. And the idea here of why we are not selecting one is because we want to give some practical options and really outline the pros and cons of each opportunity that is before us. And we're going to work up the financial model of how we optimize the different types of investments that can be made based off of these parameters, and ultimately optimizing it for you as well. So with that, I think we're going to probably have a few more updates over the next month or two on Project 700 that kind of give you an outline of where we are at and where we're headed towards, because I think we are about to get ready for this proposal. But before that, I wanted to kind of send it over to Felipe to kind of talk a little bit about the foundation of how we ultimately will get here for the scaled up compute. So over to you, Felipe.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Over the next few slides, I'll be talking about the short-term AI investments, which are also part of the sovereign AI compute strategy of the federal government. Next slide, please. So just as a reminder, in the fall economic statement of 2024, the federal government committed $83.5 million for the Alliance to deliver on short-term AI investments, specifically for addressing the dire need for AI compute capacity for Canadian researchers. And so just as Stephen mentioned earlier, everything that I'll be presenting today is really built on a lot of the work that we presented to the federal government as part of our mandate renewal, but it's also meant to really build the capacity of the country and get us ready for the next stage. Next slide, please. Our investment of the $83.5 million is really broken down in four big areas. We have a section devoted for infrastructure, and here I'm going to be talking about the distributed storage and compute grid that Stephen mentioned, but also a short-term investment in AI compute capacity. We have data, software, and cybersecurity initiatives with a national platform for federated data discovery and trusted data spaces, secure data services. We also focus on workforce development and training. Here we're talking about upskilling researchers, user support staff, both in data stewardship, cybersecurity, but also software development. And also we're looking at a coordinated effort for standardized training curricula across DRI and AI. And finally, we obviously want to develop and enable a sustainable, trusted research environment here in Canada through the use of persistent identifiers, shared governance, and interoperability. Next slide, please. So here I'll start talking about something that we started in the summer of this year. So we launched the targeted call for proposals to invest $40 million in AI compute infrastructure. This infrastructure was meant to be complementary to what is currently being provided through the 5 national host sites or by the Pan-Canadian AI compute environment. And it was really dedicated for the broader research community that wants to start working on AI. And so we were looking to something that would be used for deep learning, driven image analysis, large language models, generative modeling, AI enhanced simulation, and any other type of application. And so the eligible institutions submitted their proposals. This is a time-bound investment. We needed to have the infrastructure delivered at the host site before the end of the fiscal year. And so we received those evaluations. We've put together a committee with international and national experts, with Alliance staff, and we reviewed those applications based on their technical suitability and how feasible it was to implement them within the time frame. We want to make sure that the architecture that was being proposed was indeed the right one for the diverse AI workloads that we know our researchers are demanding, and also that it would be well integrated with the national compute infrastructure. That means using the resource allocation, using the CCDB account, and so on. We're also looking for value for money. And all of this, we did it through consistent, transparent scoring against the criteria that we had published. So we have now announced privately to the institution that was selected. And so over the next couple of weeks, we're just working on a shared announcement. Therefore, we can't really just say who has been awarded the $40 million. However, the institution can now begin the procurement and make sure that that infrastructure is delivered by the end of fiscal year. Next slide, please. The other infrastructure project that we launched in September is the Distributed Storage and Compute Grid. This is a new initiative in many ways. First, it's a new architecture that talks about traditional clusters of storage, but also stretch clusters, which are multiple institutions working together. It is also the first service where the Alliance is owning the infrastructure and it's co-locating it at partners institutions. So we're talking about higher education institutions, research hospitals, and not-for-profit research organization. We've received a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of interest. We held our information session, and based on the feedback, we actually extended the deadline for submissions for October 14th. The next steps will be for the Alliance to identify what are the best places based on those submissions, what's the best architecture that we can have based on where those institutions are. And we will select 9 or 11 sites, and we will also begin procuring the infrastructure that will be delivered at those selected sites. And something that I will be talking in a little bit more detail later is that the distributed storage is indeed the foundation for a lot of the services that we currently provide, but also that we want to provide in the future, including the active data management services, future repositories and preservation, the national data spaces, and research platforms and portals. Next slide, please. In terms of workforce and training, we've begun conversations with our partners across the country to make sure that we have their opinions, we have their approaches considered as we move forward in developing national standardized DRI training curricula and all of the materials that are needed for our trainers to deliver that work. The approach that we've taken is that we want to make sure that the trainers who are currently delivering the training are front and centered in the development of that curriculum, but also the materials that they would use in the different training that they provide across our partners. And we are also looking at a program in a carpentry style about training capacity building. And here what we're looking is training the trainers. Therefore, a trainer who can take this certification or these workshops, then they can go and train other trainers and start spreading that skill set. We're looking at working with AceNet and other partners in this, Calcul Quebec and Compute Ontario, but this is something that we're currently in discussions. Next slide, please. In terms of research software, I'm really excited to share that we have a special funding opportunity. This is, as a reminder, this is based on AI funding that was delivered to us. So this special funding opportunity will be specifically to allow research platforms and portals that are currently using national infrastructure to enhance their AI capabilities. So we've allocated $2.2 million to really select some of these national scale research platforms and portals to adopt this AI. And so you can see it now in our website. So if you're interested, the eligibility is, of course, active research platforms and portals on our infrastructure. We're also looking at launching a new service on AI research software support. We've heard over the consultations for the town halls that Stephen was leading, but also in discussions with the National Help Desk, that this kind of service is needed. More researchers are trying to engage and learn and use AI. So we need to start supporting them in adopting them and also using more efficiently the infrastructure that we're investing on. So we want to improve software quality and workflows. We want to improve optimization and scalability. And we really want to build a national research software capacity. Next slide, please. In terms of data, I'm not going to spend too much time here because we have several slides after. But basically, with this town hall, we are launching our Canadian Research Data Platform engagement campaign that will go over the next few months. And also, we are going to be talking about the National Data Spaces Pilot Funding Call, which is bringing together different research communities in a more organized way to advance towards broader ecosystem and interoperability. Next slide, please. And just as a summary, here I would like to emphasize how we've spent or how we're spending the 83.5 million. As you can see, most of the funding, over 3/4 of it, are going to either the purchase and investment in capital expenses, such as infrastructure, the compute, and the storage, but also in making sure that we can support our partners in covering the cost of that infrastructure. We're also spending a lot of funds in expanding the workforce. We have at least 4 national services that we want to expand, and therefore we need more people available to lead those services. We also have the funding opportunities I just mentioned in terms of the data spaces and the software. And we are looking at expanding the storage capacity with at least 160 petabytes located at 9 to 11 institutions. So this is really something that we're trying to do in a transparent way. And so I hope that in the next few slides, we can go into a little bit more detail in terms of the data and the data spaces. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, with this town hall, we're really launching the campaign for the Canadian Research Data Platform. But what do we mean by Canadian Research Data Platform? Next slide. As we look at the Canadian Research Data Platform as an effort that the Alliance is launching to address some of the needs, I really want us to ground ourselves in the context where this is happening. Right now, there's over 400 data repositories that are assigned as Canadian repositories online. Most of these are discipline-specific repositories. Over 90 of them are institutional repositories. Many of the discipline ones are funded through CFI. They're also funded through grant projects. And so their long-term sustainability is not necessarily guaranteed without proper support. In terms of the institutional ones, we know that many institutions are addressing the requirements coming from the Tri-Council and trying to support their own researchers by having their own instance of Borealis. And we have over 22,000 published data sets in these repositories. These are valuable repositories that have curation support, user support, and they're bilingual. So we need to make sure that we support them and we integrate them into the vision that we have for Canadian future. Right now, there's close to 700 large big data sets published on Further, over 350 terabytes. We have 300 petabytes available across the national host sites, and 10 of them are being used by 72 research platforms and portals. We know that over the last 5 years, CFI has made huge investments in supporting the needs of Canadian researchers, with 41 CFI-funded projects related to data platforms. And we know that all of this is something that institutions are struggling with and trying to find ways how to support their researchers, because most of them have published an institutional strategy that is publicly available. And we know that these needs are not going to, they will only continue to grow. With the Tri-Council investing over 2 billion in research grants and scholarships, and with initiatives such as the Precision Health Initiative of the Genome Canada, the demand for storage will only continue to grow in the future days. So this is the context of the Canadian Research Data Platform. Next slide, please. And so our solution is relatively simple. One, we want to have the infrastructure to support hosting Canadian research data across the country. And so, as I mentioned, the distributed storage and compute grid is really that foundation for the Canadian Research Data Platform. We want to leverage the Canadian Access Federation framework to make sure that researchers don't need to have different accounts for the different services. They can also do it, they can all do it in a simplified way. We want to make sure that the services that are available nationally, Lunaris, the DMP Assistant, Further, the curation, and long-term preservation, are all integrated and are not standalone services. We want to make sure that they're supporting local and regional initiatives as we scale and support our researchers. And of course, we want to make sure that all of this is easily used through a research dashboard, a web-based portal that would allow researchers to track their outputs, whether it's research software, whether it's data, and make sure that they understand and see how their data is being used across the different repositories, how many times it's been downloaded, and maximize really visibility to the usage and the impact. And finally, our national data spaces, which is really the effort that we have about creating community-led shared governance for a socio-technical ecosystem that enables secure, standardized, and ethical sharing of Canadian research data. Next slide, please. And so how do we go from a fragmented and scattered, disconnected repositories and systems across the country, where there's a lot of manual work, where there's a lot of administrative burden, there's limited discoverability and interoperability across platforms, across systems, to one where data, services, and compute are all integrated into a national architecture, where curation, metadata harvesting, repository integration, all are streamlined and connected. How do we link people, projects, and outputs across the research lifecycle? I think this is something that we need to do together. A lot of the people here in the room are delivering services or are researchers or are funding infrastructure and projects. So we need to make sure that we talk to you and we do it in a very, very meaningful way. Next slide. Therefore, our engagement plan, where we really want to fine-tune how do we do all of this together, is very robust. It includes things like data summits, where we want to bring the broader research community to discuss, to share progress and identify challenges, and develop solutions. We want to have consultations and use case development through focus groups, working groups, and surveys and forums. All of this will be done in collaboration with our partners in a transparent way and through continuous communication. What we want to do is we want to be really clear. We want to leverage existing partnerships, the networks, the team that are already delivering a lot of this capacity and a lot of these services. But we also want to create new and accessible opportunities for the broader community. And so our commitment to you is that we will have different fora for having these discussions. Next slide, please. And so over the next few months, you'll see a number of initiatives coming out of the Alliance related to the Canadian Research Data Platform. As I mentioned, we'll launch the campaign today, but over November and December, we will gather focus groups, we'll continue having town halls, we'll have workshops, and in the spring, we will hold a data summit, and we will start working with the community to move, to create, to really implement that vision that we've shared with you today. Next slide, please. And with this, I really want to take a moment to talk about data spaces. So data spaces, if you could click again, please. Data spaces is really a new frontier in how research data management can be perceived. It is a concept that was developed by Codata as a frontier in digital technology that enables secure, seamless, and controlled exchange of data among different organizations and systems. It was really focused on industry, but because research data and the value of research data is no longer debatable, its application in research, it's becoming increasingly adopted. Next slide, please. So in Europe, the European Commission spent approximately $4 million in establishing or testing 13 data spaces using the EGI Foundation infrastructure that is distributed across institutions. So some of these data spaces were related to health and medicine, climate, energy and physical sciences, environmental sciences, but also social sciences and humanities. And what they were doing is they were really bringing together communities that were relatively mature and standardize how they approach research data management and integrate across these data spaces, data standards, shared data governance, and so on. And it was really bringing together the community through a really, really strong engagement. Next slide, please. We see a similar effort in Australia. Our partner organization, the Australian Research Data Commons, is really starting a national dialogue where they're looking at adopting the International Data Standards as International Data Spaces Association blueprint for data spaces to really identify how can they increase trust in research by bringing together and building on their communities of practice that they've set up. Oops. And so next slide, please. And just on Friday, the Chief Science Advisor of Canada published a report on the data governance in Canada. And we're really pleased to see that the vision of the Chief Science Advisor is quite aligned with what we're presenting here. And in some of the recommendations, they were talking about the promotion of domain-specific leadership and identifying how we can have harmonization and synergies within specific domains. There's also different mentions about security and growing the workforce. So this is something that was published on Friday, and we will continue working with the Chief Science Advisor as we implement our vision. But it's really great to see that something that we are going to be presenting here is already resonating with the federal government. Next slide, please. And so what is the Alliance proposing? Well, we're proposing to have communities come together to develop community-led digital ecosystems around specific domains. We want to make sure that it's the researchers and the research communities who develop the ethical, the standardized sharing, the use and reuse of research data across institutions, but also across sectors. It is you, the researcher, and the librarians and the research data management staff who are constantly working with this type of data that know what's the best way to use it, reuse it, and how it should be shared and who can access it. So through this funding call that will be launched in the middle of October, we want to really support domain-specific data interoperability, sovereignty, and value creation. We want to make sure that the researchers and the data specialists are the drivers to make sure that domain-specific national and international framework are adopted for that specific domain. And we want to facilitate long-term stewardship and access to high-value data sets. Next slide, please. From the Alliance perspective, we see data spaces as three elements together: the storage infrastructure to host this data, the communities of experts that determine how that data should be governed, under which standards, what are the best practices for accessing and sharing that data, what are the legal and technical requirements, but also the research software and platforms that are needed to analyze, visualize, and manipulate that data. So all of these are in our mind, the three elements of a national data space. Next slide, please. And so how do we go from a place, as I opened in my slide, with many infrastructures, many research communities, many research software and platforms that don't necessarily talk to each other, that don't necessarily know that the others exist, to one that is organized and connected by domains. So what we're trying to do with this first instance of the data spaces with the pilot is that we want to start by just organizing and see how far we can get along in creating this vision for an interconnected Canadian data ecosystem. Next slide, please. And the other thing that we want to do is we want to build on existing efforts. We see it across different domains, whether it's health, cultural and digital humanities, Arctic data, and astronomy. Many communities have come together to address these issues in a very organic way. So how can we build on this? How can we also support these communities in a way that is standardized and equitable? How do we recognize the differences, the inherent differences between how each of these communities work together? Next slide, please. So for this, we've adopted from different sources, we've developed a maturity model that defines a reference national data space, which is in this case a level 5. It's an optimized community that has federated data sharing governance across national borders is applied, and it's foundational for that specific community. So that is our reference data space. So we're going to try to bring together all of these communities and support them to self-define as a level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and help them mature to that optimized reference national data space. Next slide, please. But we also want to recognize that not every research community is the same. As I mentioned, we have astronomers, human genomics, social scientists. And so as we move forward through this progression and in maturity towards the reference data space, next slide, please. We want to make sure that communities can advance their governance, their legal policy, the functional aspects of that data space, but also the technical aspect at their own pace. Not every community is going to be at the same level across all of these elements of a data space. And we want to make sure that we support them and we work with them as they mature across these areas. Next slide, please. And so in reality, what I would like to finish with is that the data spaces program will be a pilot. It will be a national dialogue where we will test and refine and demonstrate whether the data spaces approach works in Canada, whether the research communities in Canada are eager to adopt it, and what are the issues that are facing as they adopt it. We will also share our lessons and progress openly with others, whether they are or not successful applicants of the data spaces program. But we also want to work with other communities so that they can identify and they can contribute and start beginning aligning their own efforts as we mature. And I apologize, my dog is barking. And we really want to create tools and frameworks so that the broader Canadian research community use them and mature towards this reference data space. And with this, we really want to create collective learning opportunities for everybody. And with this, I'll just pass it to Graham, and thank you, everybody, for your attention.
Great. Thank you, Felipe, and thank you, Stephen, for your presentations. So we'll now take the opportunity to hear from you. So just a few brief housekeeping notes about how that will work. Please use the Q&A function in Teams for all of your questions. And if you would like to ask a question verbally instead, please note that a dedicated time slot now has been allocated for you to do that. If you want to ask a question out loud, please just use the raise hand function and we can unmute you. So yeah, we'll now take your questions. I see one already from Andrew.
Yeah, Hi, good afternoon, or depending on where you are, I guess. Andrew Schoenrock at Carleton University. Thank you all for so much information. Felipe, I think you mentioned about expanding the workforce as part of some future investments, and I forget the numbers, but some were Alliance employees and some were extended workforce. I was wondering if you could go into how those new positions will be created. Are they going to be full-time positions, or are you looking to fund positions that are, already at institutions to do part-time work with the Alliance? Like, if you could go into that a bit more, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly. So right now, based on the investments that we have out of these short-term AI investments program, we're looking at approximately 27 people that are needed to deliver either the services or develop the resources for the Canadian Research Data Platform for the distributed storage and compute grid. 18 of those positions are earmarked to be outside the Alliance, 9 internal at the Alliance. But the principle that the Alliance has taken is we want to stay as lean as possible, and we want to distribute the staff to where the expertise lies. So with that in mind, the 9 individuals at the Alliance are probably going to be specifically for developing tools. This is a 3-year commitment, so we can't expand too much, and we don't want to expand too much the size of the Alliance.
Great. Thank you. And we've got a question from Brian Corey. So I'll just read it out loud for everyone. If data spaces are research domain specific, these research domains span borders. So national data spaces seem somewhat limiting in the sense that it seems to me what we really want is to have a program that results in Canadian-led data spaces initiatives to provide international data space to the international research community.
Could you just repeat that, Graham, please?
So yeah, they're asking, I think, about the pivot from national to international data space initiatives.
Yeah, Brian, I see your hand up. I don't know if
I can elaborate if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I mean, the data spaces are typically international data spaces in the sense that research typically spans borders. And so the kind of phrasing of national data spaces seems maybe limiting in the sense that really we want to be developing data spaces in Canada that are valuable to international research communities, as opposed to maybe calling them national data spaces, which seems to narrow their scope.
Yes, thank you. So that's a really important point. And I don't think we want to minimize or limit the scope of this data spaces geographically. I think the intention when we say national, it means that they are of importance for Canada for a variety of reasons, whether it's because it's socially valuable information, or it's because it's an economically important sector. But what we're trying to do with national data spaces is create visibility to all of the different efforts that the community is developing to address some shared needs, create transparency for the funders and for the research communities to say, there are others that are doing the same thing. Let's work together because it's the same type of data, because it's the same type of research. In our maturity model, we agree that many of the more mature data spaces, they will now be interoperable internationally. So we can have a very nascent community that is still collaborating internationally, but it's really about the adoption of shared standards and shared and interoperability that makes them a national data space that is now interoperable internationally as well. Does that answer your question, Brian?
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Great. And we've also got a question from Mark in the chat regarding the Canadian Research Data Platform. Should I understand that this is a new software layer distinct from Further or Borealis?
The first thing that I will say, and I'll invite others from the Alliance to contribute as well, but Platform has different meanings for different people. And so in this context, the platform, the Canadian Research Data Platform, is really an effort, and it's multiple initiatives and multiple services under it. It will include the software layer that will integrate active data management systems and lifecycle management, which we don't have right now. But it's also something that will bring the next stage of Lunaris, the DMP, further. And how can we integrate all of that to Borealis instances, but also to different services that are being delivered by our partners? How do we connect it also to the national compute platform? So all of this, it's not just the software layer, it's really human capital, it's services, it's resources, it's software.
Great. Thanks, Felipe. I'm seeing a longer question in the chat. Maybe I'll summarize it. It's from Eugene, and basically it's a question about the timeline for the data spaces pilot and how we plan to kind of engage different communities within that timeline.
Certainly. So the timeline, I mean, we've been working with the federal government, with ISET, in sharing our vision for Canadian research data since 2024, if not earlier, where a lot of this, thinking had already been maturing. And we are, of course, limited, or we have the funding that we have, and we need to make sure that we demonstrate the real value of the data spaces, the Canadian Research Data Platform. We demonstrate the value of the distributed storage and compute grid, because once we do that, we will secure additional funding if we demonstrate it. I think if we don't, then it's something that we'll need to reconsider. However, in terms of the engagement, Graham, I know that we have plenty of time, but if you could maybe share some of the initial thinking around the engagement opportunities that we'll have.
Sure, yeah, be happy to. So we're hoping to, in recognition, I guess, of the many facets of the Canadian Research Data Platform, the infrastructure piece, the software piece, and everything needing to work together, we really want this to be a consultative process. And so we've planned our engagement accordingly. So we're hoping to do both in-person and virtual, both synchronous and asynchronous events, really with the idea of hearing from and learning from the different stakeholders, different research communities in Canada, so that we can effectively incorporate that feedback that we're hearing into an implemented research data platform. So that will take the shape, as Felipe, you said, of further town halls, in-person summits with different stakeholders involved, but also some focus groups working on user stories to be broken down into use cases, as well as work groups focused around specific issues pertinent to different research communities and stakeholders as well. So it'll be happening on a lot of different fronts. And of course, alongside that, we'll be communicating with different audiences as we go. But it's, again, meant to provide feedback mechanisms for different stages of this pilot program.
And Eugene, the most maybe substantial type of feedback that we would request is through focus groups. So Graham, we have a couple of slides for people to register. So I don't know if you could maybe post those so that people can identify where they can contribute and how.
Sorry, the focus group sign up?
Yes, the QR code.
Yes, yep. So I was planning to share this at the end, but can also share it here. So we're inviting expressions of interest for our focus groups. So you can scan the QR code here to do that, to sign up. The form is in both French and English. And again, as this slide notes, we're looking for volunteers from all stakeholder groups and all academic disciplines. Again, wanting to represent that wide Canadian research community in its various forms. Anything else you wanted me to reshare or share, Felipe? No? Okay.
Maybe we can leave it here for a little bit. I don't know if there are other questions from the audience.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll make sure we broadcast this more generally, though. I mean, this isn't the only opportunity to sign up and get engaged in this, so keep an eye on our website as we go forward here.
Yeah. And there's another question related to this in the chat, but before we get to that one, there's a few other questions. One from Danica. So question for Felipe, I guess. Part of the data space is promising to provide secure, accessible, lightweight data storage platform. I think they're asking, could this replace SharePoint for Canadian researchers?
Well, I think that with the question of sovereignty, everybody's looking for different solutions. The active data management service that we're envisioning will be a Dropbox-like solution, or will provide a Dropbox-like solution, which we know that researchers are looking for to host and also share their data this way. Whether it replaces the entire SharePoint suite, maybe too early to tell, but we're definitely looking at providing sovereign solutions for Canadian researchers.
Right. And just following up, I guess, on the timeline question, we have a question from Elisa Arbuckle. So thanking us for letting us know about the National Data Spaces pilot. Wondering, though, if we could provide some more specific details on when the call for proposals would be released, what the deadline would be, and what the scope of proposals might be, or specifications on who can apply. So just maybe elaborating a little bit about that CFP.
Yeah, I am a little bit reluctant to share too many details, as this will be a competitive process, but it will be open for any and all research community. So we're really inviting social scientists and humanists, geneticists, astrophysics. We really are casting the net quite wide. We're looking at mid-October for the launch, and we hope to announce the awarded communities in mid-January. Beyond that, I guess the only thing that I would add is the whole idea is for communities to get together and start working through that maturity model towards that reference data space. And we really want this to be a process by which communities actually find how much there is within their own communities in terms of people and infrastructures and software and platforms.
Great. And maybe I'll let some of the Alliance people on the call read through. There's a longer technical question from Peter. I won't read it all out, but maybe before we get to that, there is a shorter question about RAIDs from Mark. So could you talk about RAID agency? Are there any links with the federal research agencies?
I would ask my colleague Lee, but he was not feeling very well. So if he's not here, maybe I'll attempt to answer this by saying the RAID persistent identifier is right now being led by the Australian Research Data Commons. So they are the ones who have developed this schema, and we are looking to become regional or become a registry agency so that we can start minting our own PIDs. Therefore, I don't think that it's integrated or related to any initiative that may be coming out of the federal government, but I don't want to say strictly yes or no.
Hi, Felipe. Yes, no, I am here.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, no, that was very well said. So the RAID project is one of the many initiatives as a part of the CRDP. It's just now getting up off the ground. Some of the community stakeholders that we're working with are related to the Canadian Persistent Identifiers Advisory Committee, or CPIDAC, as we like to be called, and we have representation from the tri-agencies and other agencies and other funders. So certainly they would be a part of this work as they're part of all of our work with persistent identifiers.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Someone asked whether the recording of this town hall would actually be shared, so we can so this person can share it with senior leadership who couldn't make it but are asking questions about this initiative. Absolutely, that was one of my closing notes. So yes, we will be publishing the slides for this meeting on our website in both English and French, and sharing the recording as well. So absolutely, we encourage you to spread the word. Yeah, and thank you for raising that and for forwarding it to people who might be interested. I'm not sure if anyone from the Alliance has had a chance to look at the longer question from Peter on the subject of interoperability.
Well, I think the whole point for the pilot is provide a set of frameworks or guidelines that a community can use to advance maturity across the different levels that I've described. In terms of the specific strategy, we haven't gone into that detail because I think interoperability is probably one of the most complex issues to be addressed, and that's why it's something that is seen in maturity levels 4 and 5. The idea with this pilot, Peter, is that we would work together and identify what's the best strategy and framework so that others who may be in less mature groups can start using that and learning from more mature communities.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat or any hands. Are there any other questions for either Stephen or Felipe?
Maybe I'll ask one for Felipe, just to kind of put him on the spot a little bit here. Is, I guess, like, what right now you're articulating this as a pilot program, and I think it's really for us to kind of get started, but I think there's a broader vision for this to really ramp up. So Felipe, maybe you can kind of talk about the vision for how Project 85 and 700 will come together, and how this will be kind of part of a broader kind of end state.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, I think that first, it's an effort by the Alliance to demonstrate how we have matured as an organization and how we are delivering on our promises and our commitments, which I think it's a prerequisite for P700. Second, I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to play the leading role that we are meant to play by bringing the community together and sharing this vision. And just as a comment, we've presented some of these things with funders and with others who really appreciate the vision behind this work. And it's really an effort to bring in different research communities, different players and stakeholders who usually wouldn't have that opportunity to talk to each other, and just create this visibility to what is out there. Because there is sufficient funding in the Canadian system to support a lot of these communities to become mature data spaces. But there's no visibility to that. So we're trying to create that while also creating the fabric for the Sovereign AI Compute Infrastructure Program that will build on this. Because having compute without the data or the people is not really useful, right? So we're trying to create this ecosystem where everything is building on the efforts of our partners, of the researchers, of librarians, of funders, of grant administrators. So we're really trying to coalesce the community.
Okay. And I see there's a question in the chat, and James McGregor, you'd also raised your hand probably to ask some version of this, but I'll read it out unless you'd like to say it out loud. But a question regarding the $2.5 million AI research software funding opportunity. When and how will further information be released on that?
So the special funding opportunity is available to the 72 research platforms and portals that are currently using Alliance-owned infrastructure. Alliance infrastructure. We know that some of them will be renewing their accounts and their allocations this year, but they have been notified because it's a really targeted call to those 72 platforms. There is some information on our website, and maybe somebody can share that in the chat, or share it somehow. But the eligible applicants have already been notified.
Thank you. I'm just scanning. I don't see any other hands. We have a question from Ross Dixon, who's raised his hand.
Hi there.
Yeah.
This is a meta question, actually, not about the content, but you've been referring to chat repeatedly, and a number of us cannot see any chat where these questions are being put in. Do you have any idea why that is?
I apologize, Ross. This is just me not paying attention. I think we're trying to provide some structure to how we're addressing questions and how people are providing their feedback. So I apologize. We're testing different solutions as we move forward.
I think he means the Q&A. I think if you kind of go over the Q&A right next to the chat box, you might be able to see the questions.
The only entry in there is from Oyendamola Esho 12 minutes ago with the form about the focus group. None of the questions that you guys have been reading out can I see either in chat or in Q&A. So a technical issue to be looked at next time we use this medium for one of these meetings.
Thanks, Russ. We'll take a look at it.
We've got a hand up from John Huck.
Thank you. Yeah, just a very brief point of clarification, that there is only one instance of the Borealis platform. And it's interesting because it represents an earlier successful community initiative to amalgamate almost all the independent instances of the Dataverse platform across the country. So it is already quite integrated into Lunaris and so forth. But just wanted to share that with folks on the call.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. You're completely right.
Great. Also a comment from Brian encouraging us to share information about timelines when we can, because people are interested, which is good. So absolutely, that's well noted. Thank you, Brian. I don't see any other hands up. Just refreshing. Yeah.
Graham, just before we close off here, George,
Sure.
Ross, here, I just wanted to circle back on Stephen's question. I mean, a lot of the really good questions here around program details and timelines and engagement opportunities. But I just want to conclude by stepping back a little bit here, and just reinforce on that overarching context. As a national organization working on your behalf, we take our role very seriously in terms of advocating for a comprehensive response to the sovereignty challenges being placed on the research enterprise in the country, and also in terms of what constitutes a comprehensive response to that. So in the world of funders, fragmented programming, fragmented policy can result in things like an overemphasis on compute and an ignoring of the critical dimension around research data or workforce or training, etc. Right? So I think, and Felipe mentioned this in his response, for us at the highest level, we are here to advocate for a comprehensive response to the challenges ahead, not only in terms of compute, but also in terms of providing a true national layer of infrastructure, policy, and enablement for research data to come together. Compute will always be a challenge, for every country. It's a huge cost, and it's a scramble to stay ahead in terms of pure compute power. The sovereignty play, the asset the country has, is in the research data you all create. We have a really high level obligation on your behalf to make sure that the infrastructure and the programming is there to allow that data to truly transform the country and our engagement globally. So at the very highest level, this comprehensive approach is what we're advocating for. Lots of work ahead of us here, lots of decisions from government, lots of work with the community. Critical that you all stay engaged with us, not only through funding programs, but also engaged through the dialogue and bringing your wisdom to the table here. It's very important. We have a good foundation for that. We have a network of experts. Somebody mentioned Borealis as sort of a foundation for all this. There's lots of opportunity for us. We need to get to the next level. And that's what we're advocating for with the government.
Great. Thanks, George. And one other question has come in, and it looks like we still have lots of time. So if it's okay, I'll read that one out loud as well. Question from Mark in the chat. Regarding the standard training program, RDM, is it aimed at training the trainers rather than directly targeting researchers? Is that correct? So Felipe, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for your question. So under training and workforce development, we have two initiatives. The first one is creating a standardized curriculum for DRI training and AI training. And so the target audience or the target sector for that would be the researchers who are being trained. And so we want to have materials that everybody can access to, and the workshops and training opportunities for researchers. But it's the trainers who currently are delivering the training, who are interacting with the researchers, who would be guiding more or less the training curriculum, because they're the ones who are experiencing and are interacting with the researchers, so they are aware of, the best practices within that area. At the same time, we have a second opportunity, which is carpentry style, where we would train the trainers to be able to train other trainers, and therefore expand the training capacity so that more researchers can be trained by our partners.
Great. Thank you. If there aren't any other questions, Felipe and Stephen, would now be a good time to kind of close with a few kind of reminders about further engagement opportunities? Okay, sounds good. I'll reshare my slides then. All right, so thank you everyone for attending today's Sovereign AI Compute and Research Data Strategy Town Hall. Just to close things off, I wanted to quickly share some links for those who would like to learn more and explore other ways to engage with us. And as I noted, the slides for this meeting will be published on our website in English and in French, together with a recording. As well, I'd note that a quick satisfaction survey should appear on your screen momentarily, and we would appreciate your feedback to help us in shaping our ongoing engagement efforts. And I'll just reshare this slide. So again, as Felipe noted, we're encouraging people interested in joining our focus groups to sign up. We're looking for volunteers from all stakeholder groups, again, all academic disciplines. So please do reach out if you're interested in getting involved in that way. You can sign up through that QR code. The form is bilingual, and we're excited to kind of see those expressions of interest come in and work with you. And then also, before we go, as a final reminder, the Alliance, in collaboration with our partners, has launched the AI Researcher Needs Assessment Survey, which closes on October 31st. And this bilingual survey will help us deepen our understanding of the evolving needs of Canada's research community and inform recommendations for the AI Sovereign Compute Infrastructure Program. So if you wish to participate, please refer to the link in the chat or complete the survey and share with those who might be interested. Thank you. And thank you again to our presenters and to all of you for joining us for today's conversation. If you have any further questions or comments, please do reach out, send us an email at the address on this screen, so engagement@alliancecan.ca. And I believe that's it. So take care. Thanks for joining, and we look forward to connecting again soon.
Thank you, everybody.